Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Many, many years ago, before I shot any videos for YouTube, I wrote columns for Jalopnik. And Jalopnik's still around, but they've gone through some changes over the years. I don't write for them anymore, but I remember one of my first articles I wrote for them, I was talking about odometer rollbacks and about how there's state laws and a federal law against rolling back the odometer or tampering with the odometer on an automobile. And I got a lot of pushback from people. And this is when I first discovered that people will argue with anything on the internet. And I got people saying, Steve, you can't roll an odometer back in a modern car. Or, Steve, people don't do that anymore. And I mean, literally, I had a lot of people saying that no one does that anymore. And some people are saying because modern odometers can't be tampered with. And I'm like, what? Meanwhile, I had clients coming to me with stories of rolled back odometers, and I was filing lawsuits on them. Now, I don't do as much of that anymore simply because I've just narrowed my focus down even narrower. And this was over 10 years ago. But Wayland sent me a note, said, Steve, check out this story. And we see these pop up from time to time. This one's from abc6.com out of Rhode Island. Christopher Boardman wrote it. Providence car dealer sentenced for rolling back odometers on 42 vehicles sold to consumers. The Providence dealer has been sentenced in the odometer rollback scheme during which he tampered with 42 vehicles that were later sold to consumers. The man's 53 years old. He'll serve 15 months and is ordered to pay $150,000 in restitution. You should know that the statutes I'm talking about, the state and the federal, both have criminal components and civil components, meaning you can be sued for it or you can be charged with it. And it's not disjunctive, meaning you can be both. You can be both. So if you got arrested for odometer fraud, one of the victims could sue you if they wanted to. Now, if they're ordering restitution, the argument might be that that's better than suing somebody because restitution ordered by a court is probably about the same as getting a judgment against somebody. It's a piece of paper that says they owe you money. Collection is always the problem. This came after he pleaded nolo contendere, no contest, to one count of conspiracy to tamper with odometers, one count of conspiracy to obtain money under false pretenses, and one count of conspiracy to commit forgery. And I'm sure that has to do with how he was handling this, because think about this. Someone brings a vehicle into a dealership that's got 100,000 miles on it. And the document that gets presented with the car has a mileage recording on it. So if you roll the odometer back on the car, it now won't match that piece of paper. So you may have to play with the paper also to make it conform with what's on the dashboard. He will also serve 15 months probation upon release. According to the Office of the Rhode Island Attorney General, the man sold the 42 vehicles between 2018 and 2021. The investigation into this began back in 2020 when the Rhode Island State Police received multiple reports of forged title certificates from the Rhode Island Division of Motor Vehicles. So they're comparing titles as they cross their desk, and they notice that the title applications don't always match up with the previous title. There's a problem there. Further review revealed damage to the security features of the documents consistent with writing over the odometer mileage disclosures. These forgeries, they say, were done to reflect false, lower mileage readings on the respective vehicles. The owners of these vehicles purchased them from this one shop on Cranston Street in Providence. And it always makes you wonder, is the 42 vehicles that they point out here, is that the only 42 he did? Or did some sneak by? We don't know. Other people are also going to point out that many modern cars have got onboard computers that track all kinds of stuff, including the vehicle's mileage. So some vehicles, even if you tamper with the mileage some way, it might still be recorded someplace else. So there you go. On February 17th, 2020, the Rhode Island State Police traveled to and inspected the dealership and informed the man that he did not have the proper licensing to sell cars in the state. And the name of the business says it's Auto Repair and Import. But I guess apparently they say, well, he wasn't licensed to be a used car dealer. The following day, they went by the dealership again to find the business seemingly closed and devoid of all vehicles that had been there the day before. They learned in April that he had simply moved the sales operation to his residence. Search warrants were obtained for several residences and social media accounts associated with the man. Surveillance showed that the man used Facebook and Craigslist to list the vehicles for sale. He was then found to have sold 42 cars with odometers manipulated to show lower mileage than the vehicle actually had. And I've also done articles about and videos on the concept of curb stoning. And curb stoning is a name for a class of things that involve used car sales. And quite often you'll hear a story where someone will say, I bought a used car from a guy. I went to his house, saw the car, and I bought it. And when we shook hands on a purchase price, the guy said, well, a friend of mine owns a car dealership, and he'll do the paperwork for us. And I mean, I've had people who went through the transaction, didn't realize what had happened to them. And so they go to the dealership, and the dealership goes, oh, yeah, hey, Joe, it's good to see you again. And they pull out a piece of paper, and they fill out the application for title, sign here, take the money, and you walk away. But when you pull out the purchase agreement, it says you bought the car from the dealership. And I've actually had people who didn't notice that till they were sitting in my office, and I said, well, you bought the car from a dealership. No, I bought it from a guy in front of his house. But the application for title says right here, you're buying it from the dealership. Buyer, you, seller, dealership. Well, I think I saw that, but I thought it simply meant that they were doing the paperwork. Yeah, they're doing the paperwork for themselves, not for somebody else. And so what's weird is, and this, whether you agree with this or not, is irrelevant. There are some people who believe that a car buyer will act differently and also think differently when they're encountering a car for sale in front of a house versus on the lot of a car dealership. So there are dealers out there who will tell a salesperson, we really need to get rid of that car right there. Park it in front of your house and stick a for sale sign in the window. And maybe put an ad on Craigslist. And if you sell that car, when the buyer agrees to it, say, we're going to go do the dealership paperwork because I got a friend who works at the dealership. Because you do have a friend who works there. And the weird part about it is, people go, but Steve, is that illegal? Depends on the state you're in. And it might not be. But it's just a practice you need to be aware of. And so that's one type of curb stoning. Curb stoning is, generally speaking, describing sales that take place in front of somebody's home that aren't quite what they appear. And I've mentioned before, there are also people out there who sell more vehicles than they ought to because many states say you can only sell 3 vehicles a year or 5 vehicles a year or some discrete number of vehicles per year before you got to get licensed as a car dealer. And I personally, I've mentioned before, I know a property where it's about 10 miles away, but every time I drive by it, the guy's got a different vehicle for sale. I mean, he's moving vehicles. Now, I don't know if he's moving them for himself or if he works at a car dealership. I don't know. But there's something weird going on there. But if you showed up in front of this guy's house and never been there before, you wouldn't realize that he's got a car here today that's different than the car he had here 2 days ago. And it'll be different when you buy this car. He'll bring another one out somehow. And he ought to be licensed as a car dealer, and he's not. And I know some people who say, Steve, the state's got no business forcing me to become a car dealer just because I sold 10 cars last year. I don't write the rules. I'm just an attorney explaining to you that these rules exist. You should be aware of them. And now the interesting thing here is that the guy's behavior was suspicious. He's got a whole lot filled with cars. They show up, they ask him some questions. The cars all vanish. Okay. Now they start watching them. They realize, remember, they were tipped off by the titles. The titling paperwork had problems. Problems involving possible forgery over the mileage. Gee, I wonder why someone's tampering with the mileage on the titles. Why would they do that? This is not exactly the brain teaser of the week. So the guy's been busted for this. He's going to do some hard time. And like I said, I remember, and it's more than 10 years ago. Oh, they don't do that anymore. They stopped. Who's they? The bad guys? Bad guys never stop. They stopped rolling back odometers years ago, Steve. This guy's a caveman. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I still get that one, but Wayland, thanks for sending it. I hope you're safe. Wayland's in Hawaii. Providence car dealer sentenced for rolling back odometers on 42 vehicles. And some people will notice 42, of course, is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. 42 vehicles sold to consumers, abc6.com. Christopher Boardman wrote that. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. You will do foolish things, but do them with enthusiasm.